While I'm waiting for people to come on board here, I'm going to share a little bit about something I'm working on for Marin Humane. And I think the best way to describe it is by saying I'm building a better mousetrap for teaching introduction to agility and beginning agility to people who are new to dog training. So people who have pet dogs and have never done formal training or done a dog sport with their dogs. And I did a test run with Don Covell, who's the head of behavior. We did that, I don't know, in November or December. And it worked out really well. And the way we know it is that the students were completely jazzed, the dogs were happy, and everybody was eager to move on to beginning agility. So that was cool. And now what we're doing is trying to create like a curriculum, a format that any instructor can teach. And what's been fun about that is when you teach a class, there's a certain level of knowing that you have to teach, but it's another thing to know it well enough to be able to teach somebody else to teach it. So I've been thinking a lot about this, and I'm going to be sharing some aspects of it. And here, it'll be a specialty course called Introduction to Agility, and it will be different than the Marin Humane course in that it will be set up for people who are training their own dogs. And I think we'll see if I do an instructor version of it. If there are enough people interested in teaching this method, then I would offer those videos as well, and so they understand the thinking behind some of these setups. But really what I've been doing is creating error-free learning, and that's a term that Dawn threw out there as she was seeing the class progress. And it really is error-free learning because for the dogs. And the reason I set it up that way is I want the handlers to be able to focus on their simple dog training mechanics. And they can't do that if the dog isn't doing what the dog's supposed to be doing. So by the use of props and mark buckets and various ways of setting the dog up so that the dog is definitely going to be right, that the handler can relax and focus on this one thing, which is improving training mechanics. But the other thing I noticed as I was putting together this more formal course to run through the second time is, without knowing it, I created back chaining for the human students. So the first thing they learned was how to reward their dog, how to mark behaviors and reward their dog. Then we gradually added motion, slight motion, moving into heel position to front, to heel position to front, going back and forth. Then adding lead outs, how to lead out without losing the connection to your dog. And all of this is classic back chaining and yet applied to students. So now that I know that is what I ended up doing, but I'm doing it consciously versus that's just what I did after racking my brain to come up with what do we do week after week. Now that I know it's back chaining, I know exactly how to add challenges to these handlers. So that's cool. So before I go into the Q&A portion, that this week's module is a real fun one for people and dogs that are ready to move on. And it's so important to move at the pace that your dog is ready to move at, and to move at the pace that you're ready to move at. Like if you've been really busy and you haven't even had a chance to watch all the videos from previous modules, that's cool. That's like called life. That's what happens in life. Take your time and let each module sink in, because they are in an order that will make the progress happen as fast as possible. And it's kind of funny that if you do the simple things first, while it might seem that you're not progressing, you end up progressing a lot faster versus stepping forward too fast and all that. So, but for those of you who are ready, the attitude before anything is for any dog that, you drop a mark buck and that dog just jumps on it and is wagging its tail, sparkly eyes, however your dog expresses joy, that's the dog that is ready to go to this next step. And this module is the module that I introduce toy play. And I do caution in the videos, and I'm going to caution here again, that if your dog goes over the top around toys, and I mean like over the top in a way that you don't consider productive for training or for your dog's overall mental and emotional well-being. Think hard before you introduce toy play to mark training, because the way, as we know, back chaining works is that mental state of the reward is going to bleed back into the behavior chain that comes before it. So you could end up creating some unwanted behaviors related to your mark bucket if your dog has unwanted behaviors related to toy play. So I know Kirsty had written that she had a really great aha about working in gentle tugging with her dog on a mark bucket, and that was a good mindset. So yeah, there are different ways that you can experiment with toys if your dog goes over the top for toys, and work with your dog in the mark bucket, but just really be tuned in to your dog's mental and emotional state, and make sure that what you're doing is productive, is what is good for your dog and thus is good for you. And other ways that mark training progresses is by adding wrapping, so more motion, or a second mark bucket if your dog doesn't wrap yet. So again, you're going to progress slowly, because adding speed in front of a mark bucket necessitates the dog having a physical skill. So they have to have the mental skill of knowing when to think about stopping. And if you remember those videos from way back when of Dakota racing around a tree and then hauling ass into heel position, 3 strides. Where's my fingers? There they are. 3 strides ahead, the dog needs to think about it. So it's not going to be that dramatic if from 10 feet, but if your dog can't stick the landing from 5 feet, adding 10 feet is just going to frustrate you and frustrate your dog. So, and I just want to point out just some different conversations I've been having with different Ocean members. So Alice and Remy, that what's going to help Remy learn to shuffle down that A-frame in control of his body, mark training, adding speed and distance in front. That is the way to train this thing away from the obstacle, so that no matter what happens, you have no potential to poison a real agility obstacle. And the dog itself kind of self-fixing in a way, so the dog tips over the mark bucket, no reward. The dog will realize, oh my gosh, the mark bucket's tipped over, and some dogs will learn to flip it back over, like Dakota, and I think Lil has tried. But other dogs, you just let's try again, and you set it up and do another rep. And so that it's kind of it's a nice way of removing the reward, which is the front feet on the mark should be rewarding before you're adding speed, without you doing anything. So there's a natural repercussion that is clarifying for dogs. So remember, slow progress equals fast progress. The other thing, stimulus control. Donna was talking about some confusion between nose work boxes and front feet on a mark bucket. And both my terriers did funny things when they were exposed to nose work boxes, that they did every behavior they'd ever learned on any object. Front feet, 4 feet, 2 on, 2 off, and they just methodically went over all the boxes. While it was cute at the moment, I'm sure the instructor wasn't that thrilled because the boxes weren't that sturdy. But they were able to figure it out. And the more clarity your dog has about each behavior, the better they understand each behavior. So there's a thread about that, and I can't remember, other people shared how they have worked through that kind of confusion. So that's a good thread to think about if you do nose work and incorporating mark training now. So another topic that's come up beyond this group, but in the group as well, because it's such a common topic, is arousal and stress levels. So in this module, you're going to find an article about stress levels that a test showed that a dog and their human stress becomes synchronized. So that if that doesn't motivate you to help your dog be less stressed through your good decisions about how you're training and what you're exposing your dog to and all of that, I don't know what will. So enjoy that article. And Tim Lewis and I are still trying to connect. He's just had some stuff going on, but I think it's going to be a great conversation, talking about the physiological responses of stress. And And so when that happens, it happens. I'm just like, pursuing things and pursuing things and pursuing things, and they will definitely happen. Let's see. Oh, and I also shared something on the Ocean for Dogs, the free group. And I think I shared it in our group as well to start, but I shared it there because it's a common scenario, and it came up because Heather Harris was sharing an insight she had about Dakota's sister Echo, that it's really hard to differentiate if a dog is going off course because your cue was late, or if the dog is going off course because they're just stressed and they're kind of blowing a gasket, and that's the way they blow a gasket. And it's tricky with these dogs that are just fast, and from the sidelines, it does look like potential late cue, but it often is not. And if you watch videos, if you videotape everything you do, you'll see that, oh, your cues are often late. And why did my dog shoot off there and not there? Or why is my dog getting twitchy and pulling off of obstacles? And why does my dog feel too fast sometimes and not too fast other times? Well, those are all, I think, signs that the true issue is perhaps stress versus your handling. And checking in, with yourself about your experience when you're running your dog can help. Because I've run Echo, and I felt the moment she disconnected and then she shot off. So I was clear, because I don't have any baggage about Echo. She's not my dog. And I guess this brings up the other point, is that if we have baggage about our dog's been doing this thing that's been like ruining every run, has been doing it for like 6 years, and we've been working on it, blah, 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 and the dog is still doing it, that we end up with some baggage that is not productive for us or our dogs, and it can put us on the other side. It can put us on the opposing team versus on the team with our dogs. So Heather had a great insight about that as well. And, I think once you realize that what's causing your dog to do the thing that's creating the NQ or the elimination when you're at trials, when you realize that they can't help it, they're doing their best and their experience is not a positive one, they're maybe having a negative experience, that I think it can evoke our natural compassionate state and want to help them versus be frustrated that they are, doing the wrong thing. So all of that stuff really ties into Ocean, and this module, since it talks about arousal and stress, is a good one for any dog person that is struggling with stress responses. And the other thing is, since toy play comes up, is tugging, and their styles of tugging have been around some of them have been around for quite a while, and I think they need to be rethought. That this. And some of the rules about tugging, that the dog can never let go of the toy, and that, it has to be this, intense thing, and blah, blah, blah. That is not my opinion, that I find that it doesn't take much to evoke a dog's opposition reflex through very gentle tugging. And I share videos about how to do that. And I've done it with dogs that have never tugged, and they just go right into it. And the other thing that, I'm not sure I mentioned those videos, but if a dog doesn't bring back a toy, it is possible that the dog is not enjoying the type of toy play that you're doing, because a toy reward is not like a food reward. Toy play is the reward. So if your dog is not racing back and shoving that toy in your hand, that means the toy play reward might not be as rewarding to your dog as you think it is. So all of these things can, kind of open up your consciousness about how you're engaging with toys if you use toys for rewards. And really just tuning into your dog and seeing the slight shift in confidence and joy and connection, and notice what you were doing and try not to do that. As in a podcast I was listening to recently, these two dog trainers were talking, and I completely agreed with them. They were talking about how banging on the dog's side, while it does create growling and higher intensity, they thought, like most dogs, are annoyed by that. They don't like it, and that's why they're growling. And yet that's been part of the culture of tugging in agility for a long, long time. And, I even do it occasionally. I don't think to do it, but, then I go, oh, I'm doing a video, let me bang on Dakota's side, and he growls. But I think lucky for him, I don't think to do that very often, because I'm not sure he does like it. And and even like some of the other way that people engage with dogs, if you watch videos of people, even known trainers, and really study the dog's mental and emotional state when that person is teasing the dog, they're kind of like in a seventh grade, the way boys tease girls. And I've never liked that. But to me, the dogs, yes, their arousal is going up, but it's not positive excitement. It's more like, you're pissing me off. And to me, the dogs do not look happy when they start barking. They look like they're just going, stop that, stop that, stop that. So then the person stops it and they start agility. So now that's their behavior chain, moving into agility, which is let me annoy you. Dog barks to stop the annoying behavior, and then they start doing agility. So more common than you think. Really check out videos that you're watching from the perspective of the dog and see if you notice that, even with some known trainers. It's pretty surprising. Let's see, what else? And there are very good milestones, a list of them, at the end of this module too, to just study and just go, you know what? I've been busy. I haven't had time to do much with my dog. I'm not going to move on, and I'm not going to watch these videos because I haven't watched the videos from the last module. Like, definitely take your time. That this is not a race. There's no end place you will get to. The membership is filled with stuff, but it's all going to be there for as long as you're a member. So there's no rush to get to anything. A couple other things that came up this week that, I run 2 fairly large Facebook groups on the creator and moderator of Ocean for Dogs, obviously, and the Canine Jumping Forum. And the Canine Jumping Forum has like 3,500 people or maybe more. And there are a handful of people that I think it's their mission in life to bust my chops. And when they get on it in a big way. And so it really made me think about, how we are in the world. If we are open-minded and, or, looking for the best in people's motivations. Like, I tend to think the best of people, that if I read something, I go, gosh, what they mean by that? My natural assumption is, well, they didn't mean it the way I just read it. And then I'll read it again going, that's probably the way they read it. They meant it, because why would anybody do it in a way that, creates this negativity? But a lot of people, I think, are the opposite. Not a lot, but a few. And so I think it's a great thing to just, think about, like, if we read something that we're going, ooh, that was weird, that read again and see if it's just something in the way you read that was not, did not resonate positively with you. And I'm not referring to any particular person in this group. I've not had that experience with anybody in our group, but I just had, a couple of people who were like mad at me for being off Facebook for 8 hours. I mean, that one person was like, what? It's like, anyway, that's quite the thing. But I think what's interesting about these big groups is getting a sense of what people are thinking beyond myself. And so I've been lately just, doing some polls and trying to set them up so they don't create big, hairy monster messes through people thinking that I'm trying to get something out of this other than asking the simple question. So, but it is interesting that to see how many people think this and how many people think that, just for curiosity, because I am interested in what people think. Let me jump into Celeste's question about keeping older dogs fit. I found a great Facebook group. Somebody invited me to it. It's called Canine Conditioning and Body Awareness Exercises. And the thing I like about it is I think there's some knowledgeable people who are running it, and they're moderating so that the people who are posting things, I think it's good, good solid advice. I mean, there are plenty of classes you can take where people who are certified with the Fit Pet stuff will teach you various exercises. But another great resource is Walter. We'll call him Walter D. He posts some really good stuff on his Facebook page. He's the vet who does the How Dogs Move, and now is doing one on jumping webinars, like, for, I don't know, $150 or something like that. The thing I like about his approach to conditioning is he splits things up versus lumps things. And even the advice I got to do from a orthopedic specialist, the stuff I am doing with Dakota during his laser treatments, that because I'm aware of what Walter, his thinking on it, that I think the exercises that Dakota's been prescribed are kind of lumpy. They're kind of, missing some steps. And he's showing me that by only being able to do like a few reps before the form starts slipping ever so slightly. And this is the key important part of all of this PT stuff, that I think you can do more harm than good if you are not focusing on the exact form your dog should be doing the exercise, and that if your dog is rushing through versus doing something methodically. And Walter's gives some really great examples. Oh, and Allison's saying Walter's in that conditioning group as well. That's fantastic. Yep. So go there and get ideas. Some of the stuff I've been doing with Dakota is all obviously rear leg, right? We're working on building strength, for stifles. And so it's lots of, rock back to sits and then come back to stand from sits with the rear legs higher and the rear legs lower. And lower has been a real challenge for him. So I've just backed way off of that. And I'm not putting his front feet high up on an exercise ball like suggested in his PT. But I guess if I have to say, this vet that has prescribed this, if it wasn't COVID, she and I would have been working together in a room, and I'm sure she would have said, oh, don't do that yet. And looking back into Dakota's history, when I used to do sit pretty to stand back to sit pretty, which is just something that Australian Terriers have no trouble doing at all. But I remember back then going, oh, I don't like this. I don't like this for him. And I think because it's too hard with those long, gangly legs that he has compared to the Australian Terriers. So I would say, be super careful and really observe your dog. And it didn't take long for Dakota to go from bing, bang, boom. That's the way he wants to do everything, because, I've trained punchy sits and, all that fancy stuff. And now I'm saying, hey, forget all that and do something else. But he is doing it. And, I think it doesn't take much to get them tired at first. Even walking up and downstairs and all that stuff. I think slowing things down really, really is a workout. So I think you'll find everything you need through that group, and at least it's being moderated by good people. And when in doubt, just don't do it, right? If you just go, something doesn't feel right about this for my dog, let it go. Gonna scroll down and just talk about some of the things that members posted. So Luis posted about Freddie with TNT, Touch and Tone, and the Mark Bucket, and he's a Papillon, and so she's down on the ground with him, which is typical for when we've got small dogs. It's easier to be on the ground, or else you're like leaning over and your back gets sore. And my advice was, try standing up with him, because Lil actually prefers when I'm standing up. She feels more pressure when I'm sitting on the floor with her. So contrary to what you would think, not every dog likes us being low, whereas Dakota, when you're on the ground, it's a love fest. That's like permission to just be all snuggly and all of that. So Louise is going to get back to us and see how he is different. And, with the TNT, going back to that Connect with Compassion, that it's worth continuing to play around with that stuff just to see. Like if you're out on a walk and you call your dog in, your dog has a chin rest, that in a higher intensity, I play around with that with Dakota all the time. And I just go, what does he think of this? Is this a nice experience for him to mix in with a little recall? Is that better than just coming and standing there facing me? So all of this stuff can be incorporated into day-to-day life whenever you think of it. If you are, in this mindset of experimentation and, being present, which this brings up a point, or not a point, but something I want you all to test for yourself. It's about the act of seeing. And I've had this experience for so long now consistently. I believe that it is, it's like when I started seeing Dakota not put down that left rear foot every now and then, once I saw it on slow-mo video, I'm able to see it when it happens occasionally, even on other real-time videos that I've posted on Ocean, and I never noticed. And I watched those videos many times, just, editing them and then reviewing them, and I never noticed it. Now I'm like, oh my God, how did I ever miss that? So here's the challenge. If you walk your dog on a leash and your dog likes to walk in front of you, I think that's 90% of dogs or more, soft focus your eyes and just watch their back two legs, the lower legs. Just watch those two legs in a soft focus and just relax into that. And what will become apparent at some point is that the illusion of continuous motion is going to break away, and you're going to see that the legs are appearing and disappearing. And I don't know if that's because of our flicker rate being slow, or if there's some other, loop that something is like has a slight gap in it. But once you see it, you're going to be blown away by it, and it's a great way to kind of meditate on being fully present, and it may surprise you. If it surprised the heck out of me, and it continues to surprise the heck out of me, and I question every time, like, what is causing this breakdown in continuous motion? And I think it might have to do with that there's 2 feet moving, in that the eyes are sending this message up, and the brain is picking one or the other, and so it's not continuous. Anyway, enjoy that. And then the one other variation of this is, when you're walking, especially if you're walking on a patterned surface like a gravel path, focus like 5 feet in front of you, and soft focus again, so that the tendency of the eye is to lock onto things and track. So you'll notice, like, you'll be tracking one leaf and then you'll track something else, and you won't even really have to think about tracking, but your eye just focuses on things and then follows them. But if you don't let your eyes do that and you just look 5 feet in front of you, what you will experience is how fast the ground is moving under your feet. It's really mind-boggling. You'll just see it rushing by. So, and I remember Tim Lewis mentioned that, like, the earth is rotating at some ridiculous fast, gazillion, like however many hundreds of thousands of miles per second. I don't remember. It could be hundreds of miles. It's moving really, really fast, and we're unaware of it because we're used to it. I think it's like just something related to that in my mind at least. So 2 things to work on when you're out walking your dog, if you want to experiment with being present in a different way. And that leads me to share more about the meditation thing, which I've got a new lead from one of the Ocean members, of somebody who works with dogs and is into meditation. So hoping that she's willing to talk to me. My friend didn't know whether she would be willing or not, but we will see. But in the meantime, I have been doing the daily meditations from the 10% Happier app. For most days, sometimes I do the Waking Up app, and sometimes I'll just do a random meditation. But I have to say, the 10% Happier apps, I think it is the best thing for people who are wanting to explore meditation for the first time, because there's a variety of teachers, a variety of topics, and a variety of ways of centering yourself into meditation. So one of them may, you may go, yeah, this is really doing it for me. And then another one, you may feel like, yeah, I don't know, I don't like this at all. So you're just going to get exposed to a whole bunch of different ways to, get yourself grounded and centered in the presence, the present moment. So, and I'm sure they have a free a trial period, and they probably have a pay what you can option too. I think most, things have that, considering that COVID has affected so many people's lives. So definitely check that out while I'm waiting forever to get a meditation Zoom going. And on Saturday, I'm doing a big distance Zoom with a few Ocean members who are involved in that. And that's going to be great about course analysis and about reading a dog body motion or body language when they're running agility. So you'll see it on your video. You'll be able to see the questions through body language, such as like a dog that's pulling up, shortening its stride. You'll be able to see things that in the past you may not have seen. And I'm not posting videos of that. I guess I could actually post videos of that as well. So if you don't know what I mean by that, after watching that Zoom when I'm talking about it, ask a question and I'll get some videos posted, because it's those little questions that dogs have that if go unanswered or unnoticed that eventually cause a dog to lose confidence and start questioning their own abilities, and they gradually slow down and kind of notches away the joy. So don't want that. So Kirsty, so she posted this week that doing some stuff with tugging on a mark bucket, and it sounds like she's doing it in a way that's really productive, so fantastic for that. And let's see who, so this is the post by Donna. Jean had talked about how she would deal with not rewarding a dog putting their front feet on a mark bucket if odor is present. These are all things that just are like, I consider if something happens that is a surprise or I don't want to happen, I consider it like a fun opportunity to solve that puzzle. I don't think it's like, oh my gosh, boo, boo, boo. I'm like, yeah, give me something to think about, to explore, to experiment, because everything is evolving. Our dogs are evolving, we're evolving. I mean, take my own dogs as an example, that yesterday I went for a walk along the waterfront near Target because I had to run an errand, and Dakota could not walk. Like the surf was really high and loud, and he was just whining in a way that, it's like dogs will whine loud at trials. And it's like he wasn't even unaware that he was doing it. And I realized, oh my gosh, we've been able to walk here in the past, but he can't be here now. And that is a new thing for him. He wasn't having a positive, excited experience. It was either negative or neutral. And I went for a walk with a friend, up in Petaluma or Santa Rosa last weekend, and Dakota was doing his walk behind me thing like a border collie, and she was like, "Oh, I don't know if he looks that happy back there," and I'm like, "Oh, I've never really looked at him back there." Then she turned back and she goes, "No, he actually looks fine again. He didn't look happy at the beginning." So, there's all this stuff that's, constantly evolving. I assume that he's just being a border collie, walking right behind my legs. And how would I know that he's not having a positive or neutral experience? And, Lil is like becoming so hungry, she'll eat anything. She ate a mushroom that freaked me out. She was eating succulent, leaf droppings, which turned out to be probably the reason that she had those stomach ailments that caused me to go down a very deep rabbit hole about making sure it's not this, that, and the other thing. And $1,000 later, we're like, I don't know what it was. But so she's been just eating everything. So it's a whole new realm with 12-year-old Lil. She's finding it fascinating to act like she's starving. And let's see, what else do we have here? Britton posted about Tachi. And, Tachi's interesting. Like, I've always had fast-moving dogs. They're like bing, bang, boom. But like labs, when labs do tricks, they're slower. And so it's easier to train in one way, and it feels totally different. So, Tachi is slow-moving. He's like almost like cat-like in that he just, is pausing. And it's important, I think, to really think about and to experience what each dog's pause means. So a dog that's like staring at something could be a dog that's concerned or zoning out or fearful or just interested. It could be anything. And it's up to each person to figure out, what does that mean for their dog. And I guess the one thing I want to say about Britton is, I think she's really motivated to get a better recall. And yeah, it's great to do recall specific training, but by doing all this other stuff that builds the bond, that deepens the bond and the communication, then the recall just becomes part of that. So definitely, sure, train the thing you want to train, but also know that each way you can connect with your dog that is enjoyable and meaningful for your dog, that the recall, you're just like making the recall less and less necessary because the dog is going to come to you, want to be around you more anyway. And let's see. And she also brought up the topic of, aided by cheese. And I will say this is another thing that I've been thinking about these past couple of weeks, that since Dakota's back on leash walks while we're doing the laser treatments, that I've gone back to formal kind of training while walking my dogs or hiking with them every day versus for the past 3 years, I've just been walking my dogs, no treats, no rewards. I mean, we're just walking and they're being dogs, and I love that. But as I go back to some training, I realize they were drifting perhaps ever so slowly into a direction that I didn't really like. And I hadn't noticed it because these changes happen very gradually. But by bringing back some training, like, rewarding when Lil looks to me when a car or a truck buzzes by, that I'm re-engaging her in a behavior she learned as a puppy because she was a little bit fearful of loud trucks and she'd want to lunge and chase. But it quickly, it turned into there's a truck, look to me, give the food. And bringing that back with her, it's like nothing. It took nothing to get Miss Hungry Lil back to doing this behavior. And Dakota's back to offering sit when a car passes versus just walking by and doing nothing. So I think both of these are really valuable things to bring back into our daily walks and hikes. And I never would have done it had we not been back on leash hiking, and had I not been taking this break from agility. So in every negative experience, there's like positive potential experiences if you look for them. And I have to say, I feel like with my dogs that I'm spending more time like having dogs versus doing things with my dogs, and it's really nice. I feel like there's, it's just a different level of being versus doing. There's more being, less doing. And it's been kind of fun for me. And the dogs are no worse for it. They're like maybe even more chill at home because they don't have this expectation of high arousal stuff that, hikes and walks are medium arousal. And yet very stimulating and gives them plenty of stuff to process because I'm going different places. For my own stimulation and for my dogs. And it's, they are taking in new environments in a great way. And then they come home and I can, they completely like nap and they process everything they went through. So in every negative thing is a silver lining, I think, or most of them, not all of them. So Sandra's saying, couldn't agree more. We are on lockdown here and have been on agility break indoors, too much snow for outdoors. And I'm enjoying spending so much time with my dog, just simply being dogs. Yeah, I think I have been so, like I'm a border collie brain. And one of my worries about getting a border collie is like, who's going to keep us in check? And Lil kind of keeps us in check because, I bring Lil everywhere. So she's not going to let, me go 10 miles, 20 miles, like her limit's 6. And not every day. So she's like 6'3", 6'2", that kind of thing. So Lil keeps us in check. Thank God for Lil. But yeah, the simply being with our dogs. And I think the other thing that's been really interesting for me is, when people heard, Dakota might be out of agility, they're like, when are you going to get a puppy? And I'm like, I don't want a puppy. I don't want to go through all this training again, because I kind of know where I want to end up. And I have to say, like, if Dakota had a puzzle I couldn't solve, or if Lil had one I couldn't solve, I think I would jump out and get another puppy because I love to solve puzzles. But Lil and Dakota have both achieved a high level of performance, and there's nothing I would change about either one of them. And so to start a puppy again, like the fun about Dakota was I'd never done agility with a border collie, so there were new things about that were really interesting. But and knowing what I know now about structure and how much easier some things are to train with dogs that are built in such a way that is good for this sport. And I'm not saying built better, because there's nothing wrong with the way an Australian Terrier is built, but there are some challenges about their structure if you're playing the game of agility that this particular Border Collie didn't have. So, it was fun going through the training again to see how it's different with the Border Collie. But now that I've done that and, gone to the top of, the mountain that I wanted to go to, I don't have world team aspirations, but, we were a really rock solid team, and, fast and consistent and fun and all of that. So I don't know that I'd want to start all over again to end up where I am, or to not end up where I am. So it is an interesting thing, because I do know a whole bunch of people who have gotten puppies because, for various reasons, their dog is getting older, or that their dog didn't meet their expectations. And it's an easy way to end up with 6 dogs if you always want to have one, in a prime age group. So not my thing. I'm actually enjoying 2 dogs quite nicely. So let's see. Brenda's writing, I always ask for a behavior for a treat, and Lanny always says, can't they just be dogs? I give my dogs treats, like in the kitchen, and I'm sure your dogs are just dogs too. That you're not always training, that they're not in crates if you're not training. I think there are some people whose dogs do live in kennels, and they come out and for training, and then they're back in kennels. So I would say, yeah, those dogs are not allowed to be dogs in the social way that I like to envision dogs. Not that those dogs don't have good lives, that's all they know, and I'm sure they're happy enough. But I do think we can overtrain, which I think that brings up a good point of trying to, control everything in our dogs. And it's one thing with a puppy, or if you get a new rescue, that, you're like, okay, you're gonna learn to be in the crate, and then I'm gonna watch you when you're out, and all of that, just to make sure you don't develop some bad habits. But I do think it is healthy for dogs to just, be able to relax and to go on a walk where they are just sniffing around and, pulling gently or medium gently on the leash, and instead of always having to behave and, be thoughtful. So I guess, as much as I preach about, I want my dogs to be thoughtful, I don't want them to always be thoughtful. When we go on these leash walks, for the most part, they are just sniffing around, experiencing the world. And that's what I love about taking them for walks, is it's fascinating to me for them to do that. So I wouldn't want them to be in a strict heel position and, be, training the whole time. So let's see. Margaret saying, wonderful information, teaching another puppy class, and hope to get the students to use more of their observational skills. Yeah. And that is what I'm doing with this intro class, is I'm teaching people ocean, but without teaching them ocean. So they're learning it by doing. And I think this class, that when I turn into a specialty class, it's going to show you how to implement these ocean principles from doingness versus, the way Ocean Foundations is set up is it's from a real intellectual space. And I think it's really important to grasp principles and to, have those things touch you at a deep level, so that it motivates you to do the type of physical training to develop your good training mechanics, if that's your issue, or to let go of trying to be a perfect training mechanics person, if that's your issue, needing to loosen up and be more natural. But I think it's going to be a cool class and I see it more like, these are things to do with dogs or people that you're training new to agility. And you can do other stuff too. This is not an all-inclusive everything I do with my dogs. It's these are the skills, the basic skills you need to be able to progress in any dog sport, really. And so, I'm not going to take a newbie trainer and focus our attention on teaching the dog to pivot on a mark bucket, even though I would do that, and, to train heeling and to line up and all that. I'm not going to waste that class time. on that. I'm teaching them the, core skills, and the deeper they get into agility, if they do get deeper, then yeah, we're going to add other things that they'll enjoy training. And here's one thing I'm doing. I'm not even introducing a sit stay in the entire 6-week intro to agility. It's like, if these people don't end up pursuing agility, then their dogs shouldn't have had to like stayed in class, because they got 4-minute turns. And if the dog is spending half of every turn being like lectured on stay, if the dog doesn't have a stay, that's no fun. So I've got a whole way of dealing with that keeps the dog having fun, keeps the dog motivated to get to the handler, and makes the easy choice super easy, the right choice easy, and the wrong choice impossible in this case, that the dog can only make the right choice. So it's going to take a while, of course, like everything, to put things together, but I will start building that module gradually as I modify what I'm doing for Marin Humane to suit Ocean. So they're different, but they're similar. And I mean, talk about a big project, just coming up with how to build a better mousetrap that I haven't seen. And so everything, like once you put it together, it's of course that's the way you do it. But trying to come up with it has been like, I've spent countless hours just going, okay, what is it? How do you do this? How do you create error-free learning for dogs? And how do you teach people training mechanics in a way that's positive for them, positive for their dogs? So it all is very simple, and I think just like anything that's been thought through, is everything does become simple when it's at its, not everything, but most things become very simple when you've just removed everything that is not that. It's like that Michelangelo thing that, how did you create David? Well, I chipped away everything that was not David. So that's what I'm thinking of this intro class as being. And gosh, I also have these videos that I need to put together, a specialty class called Teaching Back. And it's like a back lap, but it's teaching it where it can be done from any distance. And this is going to come up in our distance Zoom meeting. So I'm going to be motivated after that to pull together those videos. I have the videos already. I've shot them and just need to put them with some text and describe the step-by-step process. It's a fantastic skill. It basically is teaching the dog to come towards you and to turn away from you and stay on the same lead, versus like switch leads, move away from you and switch leads. This is a skill that you need for big distance handling in NADAC, but I've used it on European courses like crazy, and jaws have dropped when people are like, how are you doing that? And it's like, well, I'm just asking my dog to turn away from me and stay on the same lead. And as a result, they've done a perfect V set, and they're taking this jump, that's 30 feet away from me. So it's a cool thing. See, I've got so much like backlogged, but there are only so many hours in the day. And let me tell you, besides my 1.5 to 2 hour hikes every day and grocery shopping, this is what I'm doing. I'm working. So don't think I'm a slacker. Anyway, if you were thinking that. So Brenda's saying, great idea. I assume that's related to intro. And Britton's saying, I have a dilemma. I've always had 2 dogs, male and female. I think dogs are more interested in each other than the human. I love watching them play in their separate relationships with me. Time will come that another dog will come in time. I wonder if he could be happier, though we've got a strong bond and we have a great life together. I've had multiple dogs for 12 years. And, Lil's 12. I mean, I hope she lives, many years left, but I'm not eager to replace Lil. I want to experience one dog life. Not that I want Lil to go anywhere. I love my 2 dog life, and Lil's perfect. So, but I think the thing with 2 dogs is when you bring a new puppy in, that like I don't even know if you need to do this, but I was told this and I did do it, is that if your puppy isn't breaking away from other dogs or other puppy play to engage with you, then it's a sign that you don't have a strong bond. And to, build your bond before you let your puppy play with other puppies. So Dakota really wanted to engage with my two terriers, and they did all that, but he never had any trouble breaking away, and maybe because the terriers broke away too, that, everybody was more interested in me. So when you bring in another dog, I would say make sure, Tachi is choosing you and, over the puppy, and make sure even more so the puppy is choosing you over Tachi. Otherwise, I think you're creating competition where they have a natural social connection, both being dogs, they speak the same language. So you already are like, down the totem pole. So I would definitely, be, if I wanted to do a performance sport with that dog, I would be like making sure that that dog is choosing me. And I'm not saying, like you call your dog, you do a little playing with them, or you give them some food and then you send them back to play some more. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not like, thinking like mommy dearest or whatever. So let's see. Brenda's new are starting puppy obedience classes at end of month, and the people registering all voicing, let's see, many concerns with their unsocialized puppies. Kind of scary, but I'm sure we're not going to be the only club that is going through this. Okay, so here's the thing, that there is a perspective out there that I actually agree with, that people have been over what they call socializing puppies, that they've been throwing puppies into different environments and overstimulating these puppies and developing like a neural response of high arousal in life because of all of this stimulation. So the overstimulating these puppies. So I would say that in a puppy class, especially like puppy classes don't have to involve puppies playing with each other. And, when I went into Lil's first puppy class, it was playing with the puppies, and Lil didn't like it. And she hid under the chair, and she came running to me. And I'm glad I realized that wasn't for her. But puppy classes do not have to involve puppies interacting with puppies. I think the more that people have space and you have visual barriers so that puppies can be successful, it may not be the bad thing that everybody thinks that it was, that these dogs might be a little bit more relaxed. So let me know if you find that that the puppies are struggling less with distractibility or hyper reactivity to other puppies moving, that kind of thing. It might not be a bad thing. So Britton's saying with Akita's imperative to keep relationships separate. Yeah, I think with all dogs, it can't hurt, right? It can't hurt to make sure that you have a deep bond with each of your dogs, however many dogs you have. Oh, okay, so Brenda's saying most of them are saying they're scared of strangers out of the family. Well, and even children, my 2-year-old nephew, he's a little bit like, he watches me from afar and he's like, who are you? You don't belong in this house, when I visit my sister. And so, I do all the things I do with dogs, like I don't make direct eye contact. I don't pressure him. I let him be curious about me. I even like hide behind things, and then he wants to peek around the corner. So kids are going through this as well. And so, so this, gentle exposure, not forcing anyone to get to, like, not trying to make them get over it, because that puts you on the opposing team. So if you see that there's concern, fear, stress, anxiety, it's how can I help, through connecting with compassion, how can I help this child or this dog, experience this in a way that is non-threatening and less threatening. So this class may look different than your other classes. And, just like Ocean, that, we train the dog in front of us. As an instructor, Brenda, that you'll be training each puppy in front of you and explaining to people, that the concept of being on your puppy or your dog's side, being on their team, helping, versus trying to get them to do something that they aren't ready to do. And Chris Garrett, oh, hi Chris, you're here. Horses too. During COVID? Yeah, I guess. Horses too, yeah. Everyone, right? Well, and gosh, we will see like 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now the effects that COVID had on children of all ages, and we'll see earlier with the effects it had on dogs. But gosh, there might be some positive with dogs. Like I've watched all of these COVID puppies grow up walking by my house. I mean, because everybody ran out and got a puppy, and now they're all puppies and dog bodies. And most of them are good leash walkers, and they seem fine. Now, maybe they're going to all have separation anxiety when their people go back to work, but they're certainly really good walkers in the neighborhood. So, and although one of them is highly reactive, but I'm not even sure that's a puppy. I've not seen that dog grow up, so it might just be a dog that's always been like that. Oh yeah, one more thing. So the other, building a better mousetrap. I have a way of that I'm going to be testing with this group of people, and I've talked to Dawn Covell about it already, and she loves the idea. It's a way of teaching 2-on 2-off that's I consider a better mousetrap, and it's building on mark training. And it's so simple that I don't want to share it until I have videos of it, that it's going to be a way to clarify front foot behavior, which is what most dogs think 2-on 2-off is. They think it's front feet on somewhere. So it's just a way to clarify it so the handler isn't part of the picture like the handler usually is they're feeding the dog in 2-on 2-off. Anyway, so that's coming too. Lots of great stuff coming. So Meredith is writing, I've been so thankful for the Mark Bucket in both our puppy class and now in his Agility Foundations class. Really helps to refocus him when he's gotten too aroused by the other puppies and humans in the class. A really good tool to use in that circumstance. Okay, Meredith, that is brilliant to bring up. Brenda, Mark trained these puppies. The first thing they learn when they come in is front feet on a mark. It is absolutely, that's the first thing Dakota learned as a puppy. And it is a grounding place. It gives them something to do. It gets their nose up off the ground, right? They can't even reach the ground. That it's a power position, all of that. So thank you, Meredith, for bringing up that obvious, in hindsight, tip, right? That is the perfect use of mark training. And that what we're doing in intros, we are giving everybody a mark bucket to leave with in the first class, so that they can just, be excited. They get their free gift, their free bucket, and I'm suggesting that they, keep the mark bucket near where they feed the dog, and before every meal, just popping the bucket down, doing a few reps, and bringing the bucket back up. So, 5-week-old puppy Dakota was putting his feet on a mark bucket, and, there's no more to say. So thank you, Meredith, for bringing that very good point up for all of these COVID pups and dogs. That, I know my friend Heather, that she is a young dog that is getting really aroused and kind of pulling her in the ring lately, that right before 3 where they go, I know this, I love this. And so she's doing a lot of mark training with that dog to remind her of contact performance and also just keep her in her head. And she's been doing it with Dakota's sister, Echo, as well, as a way to ground and center her. So yeah, there's, that emotional anchor that mark training creates is fantastic. So Brenda's writing, we're using planks or cots, and yes, the marks, fantastic. Yeah, and they're all great. Like, I love sending a dog to a down in a bed. If the dog is relaxed enough to down on, on a mat or on a cot, fantastic. I think that's great. And yet, the mark, I think, is better for any mental state. So a dog can be really insecure, and they'll step up in the mark, and they'll be a little bit better. The dog is over-aroused, steps on the mark, and feels a little bit lower. I think they're great for multi-purpose, but fantastic that you're already doing that. So that's all I had to say, and I'm going to let you guys comment and see what else you got? And otherwise, I'm loving that you're posting in the group because it gives me things to think about. It gives me new ways of thinking about things, and it also gives other members things to think about. And then, so as this week, I brought up these topics that gets me thinking about these things again and in new ways because, everything is changing, everything is evolving. Meredith's writing, the bonus to the mark is that you can take it with you anywhere in the arena while you are out working with the dog. Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, and I've seen dogs that struggle with over-arousal, and if you have a bunch of marks, like, 3 or 4 marks scattered throughout your agility field, dogs that are mark trained, when they feel like, oh, I can't cope, they will often send themselves to a mark and stand on the mark. And that's a sign that it truly is an emotional anchor for that dog. So fantastic. I'm thrilled that, that Meredith, you're making such good use of this and that Jordy is like this perfect poster puppy for mark training. I mean, he's just, just brilliant. And Brenda's writing, the challenge is that people know nothing about training a dog. As you know, it takes longer to train the person. Many just pet people. And that's what this is what I am really wanting to do, is to work with pet people, because I was a pet person once, we all were. And I loved my agility class. I bonded with the other students, even though we were all very different. We were a really diverse group of people. And we had so much fun. And it's before anybody even said there was competitive agility. And I had a friend that I met and got me hooked on it. But I would have been happy to just be just a pet person. Yeah, good point. Not just a pet person. But so before you became a crazy dog person, you were, a pet person. And anyway, so Brenda, you're going to love this intro class when I can put it together to share here on Ocean, because I'm back chaining the skills that the handler, the dog trainer, needs to learn how to do to provide clarity to the dog, and not lumping a bunch of stuff together, not asking him to do things that are too difficult. So I'm creating error-free learning for the dog so that the dog is going to get rewarded for doing the right thing, because that's the only thing there is to do. The dog is getting all this good exposure to running through a channel and to walking on different surfaces and to standing on a mark bucket and to going through a tunnel, all this stuff they're getting. But the main focus is for the instructor, me, to be teaching the people like I would teach a dog, using positive reinforcement, giving them feedback, giving them encouragement, not overfacing them, recognizing when I'm overfacing them, making sure I'm not boring them, pushing forward with the teams that are ready to push forward, acknowledging what they're doing right, helping them with the things they need help with, giving them different ways to think about it. And the test run I did, people were completely jazzed, and they were all going, I'm the weak link, I'm the weak link. And I'm like, absolutely, you are. We have a complicated job. We are dog trainers, we are handlers, and our dogs' jobs are relatively simple for agility and probably for all sports compared to what we need to do. That we have a lot going on. We need to be the teachers of the dog, and we need to be doing whatever it is, seeking out whatever goal or pursuing whatever goal we're pursuing. So yeah, the handler's job is complex, and it's to me, I can't think of anything I'd rather do right now than to teach people in a way that brings them as much happiness and joy as what I bring to my dogs. And here's a little insight I had, that in this class and in all my future classes, I am avoiding developing a relationship with my students' dogs. And it's really tempting, right? You've got these dogs that that they're wagging and they're looking at you. They don't have a deep bond with the handler necessarily yet. And I'm ignoring the dogs because I don't want the dog to look to me. I don't want to be competition for attention. I want everything good to come from that dog's person. And so in addition to everything I just mentioned, I'll be teaching an intro that all of the stuff, all of the exercises build value for the dog, going to the handler, being with the handler, ignoring the instructor. And that's something I'm going to be sharing with the instructors that I'm teaching as well, that the importance of being neutral, being like I'm a post. If I'm holding the leash, I'm a neutral post. I'm just helping the dog be successful. I'm not engaging with the dog, or in distracting them in any way. So let's see. So yeah, Brenda, I'm super jazzed because I feel like I now have a way that I can help people new to dog training be successful and have a great time learning. And so that's why I'm doing all this work, figuring out intro and beginning and all of that. Because if you try to teach people who are new to the sport, of any sport, the way you would approach it as somebody who, has been at the level of mastery and how you would start a dog off, you're setting them up for failure. Because they're not going to understand what you're doing. They're not going to be capable of doing it at that level. They have to start at the beginning and progress in the way that they are able to progress. So I'm very excited about what I'm going to be doing. So Margaret's saying, very hard not to bond to the puppies in my class. I know, right? But tell me if you agree or not. This is just a thought I had the other day that I added to my instructor training notes. And it's something I noticed I did in that class. And I've been doing in my distance classes most of the time. Once, I've got a long-term student relationship and stuff, then I will engage. But, for the most part, I don't think it's productive. Because when these dogs are choosing to come to the instructor versus the person, it's kind of like, grandma has all the cookies and the mommy doesn't give the cookies. With kids, that the instructor is kind of playing the role of grandma. And yeah, the puppy thing. I guess with puppies, if I were teaching a puppy class, I would be helping people teach their puppies how to interact in a positive way with people. So that's how I would be interacting with those puppies, is by teaching people what to do, so that the puppy interacts in a positive way, and that as a stranger at first, you could see if there's an issue. If there's a fear issue, you can guide the person away from trying to make the puppy less fearful by making them meet people. You can guide them in the compassionate way, which is, that puppy doesn't want to meet people, that puppy doesn't need to meet people. And that's what I learned with Lil via Sue Sternberg. And if you're interested in hearing that whole story, post a new question about what to do with shy puppies, and I'll share what the great advice Sue Sternberg gave me. So, great. Okay, really makes me think. Yeah, great. Isn't that what this is all about? Is in our community, you guys are making me think of new things and new things in different ways and different takes on things. And I'm hoping I'm, making you think of new things. So this is what happens when you collaborate. So we are collaborating together. We are evolving Ocean as a community. And that's the fantastic part about, staying, involved in a group like this, that it's not just, come in for a 6-week class, learn mark training, boom, out you go. You'd be missing out on all of this. So that's why I'm doing this. So let's see, Britton's saying yes. Tachi does everything for the instructor. Okay. Whoops, sorry, I just took myself off pose there. Well, so you've got a dog that isn't, deeply, connected and, with the handler. And and the instructor, because we have the skills to engage and to be fun and all of that, and plus we're novel because we are not, the mommy, we're the grandma. That I think we have to really think about what's in the best service of our students and instructors. And so, sorry about hit the nerve about pet people, having been on an H&G committee for 8 years and in beginner agility. Yeah, and that is, I don't consider it a derogatory term to say pet people, because I was a pet person, and I cared deeply about my dogs at that time. I just didn't know about the behavioral sciences. So maybe I should be calling, instead of pet people, pre-behavioral science people. Doesn't roll off the tongue. But anyway, I'm sorry if I offended you, Britton. And some of you have noticed that I am posting some stuff in the free group, that anything I think will evoke some thoughtfulness. I want to, my motivation for that group is twofold. One is I want to contribute to these 1,500 members, lives, and the dogs' lives that are the partners of these people. And then I also want to keep the group active so that when the next Ocean Foundations rolls around, hopefully some people there will see my posts, because it's an unfortunate part of these online classes that you somehow have to get the word out. And without, I don't like to be gross about it. Anyway, Britton saying I wanted to thank Meredith. Okay, yes, I thank Meredith too. Let's see, she suggested A&I grinder, which really helped with Tachi. Andes. Oh, the nail grinder? Oh, is that like, oh, okay, good to know. I guess I should try that, because he just sits there, no more screaming. Oh my gosh. Okay, now you just sold me one. I'm gonna run out and buy one just to see that, Lil, she was willing to be Dremel, but she just preferred the clippers, and Dakota is so noise sensitive, I didn't even try the Dremel, but I think I'm gonna have to go try one. So very cool. Yeah, having an ongoing maintenance thing be neutral or positive versus negative is so cool, and it's cordless. Fantastic. Yeah, my Dremel was cordless, but it was, I think the vibration, the noise were, Lil didn't like them. She let me do it, but she didn't like it. Okay, going on 319. Well, on Saturday I have back-to-back Zooms that I'm running, and it's going to be hard to stay on because one is enough, right? One Zoom. I'm going to have to pull myself together and be a big girl. So let's see. The Dremels were scary. Okay, I'm going to have to get one of those. And Chris Garrett said I used one with Jacques. The bird, a grinder. Yeah, the toenails on a bird. Birds have very sharp beaks, and they can really slice you. So, okay, well, I'm going to go buy me one of those and see what's what. So thank you all for coming, and I'll post for the next week's Q&A and ask questions then or during. And oh, good, yes, post a link for everybody. Yeah, post a link as a new post in Ocean for Dogs Foundations. That'd be great, because then we can all buy one. So fantastic. Okay, so enjoy this new module. This is super fun, or continue at the pace you're at, and post whatever makes you feel like, oh wow, got on video, share that. Or if you've got a question or some stumped by something, whatever it is, post in the group, because it gets me thinking, gets other people thinking. If you need to use a male belly band around the ears to muffle the sound, that's interesting. Make them look like they're a Russian peasant woman. Anyway, take a picture of that. Brenda, thanks, Deb. Well, thank you for coming. I'm glad you could make it. And Britton's going to post that, and Chris says bye. Okay, so on that note, see you all soon, and have a great week. Okay, bye.